This time I'd like to focus on grading writing and what are the different ideas and tips and tricks for doing that to give you confidence that you are doing a good job grading your own kids' writing. I know that I have always had trouble with that because it's my kid and I'm going to love whatever they have to say and however they have to say it. And I'm not a good person to judge what is good writing. I don't know what qualifies as quote unquote good writing per se. I'm pretty decent at grammar and spelling, but that's not all that encompasses writing. And a lot of times that's the least important aspect in some respects. So I need all the help I can get. And I did struggle, as I said, with this for quite some time until I discovered one thing that revolutionized my entire viewpoint on writing and teaching writing in high school, and I wish I had figured it out sooner, so I'm here to tell you about that today. First of all, though, let me just say that when we're talking about grading writing, don't grade your kid's rough draft. Don't give that a grade. A rough draft is like practice problems in math. Your kid is still learning. Your kid is still figuring things out. They're going to turn it into you, yes, and you're going to give them feedback about what needs to improve. But do not give that a grade and then say, oh, but I will average that with the final draft. No, no, no. The final draft is the grade. The rough draft is just a piece of the puzzle to get there. And they need your feedback to do that, just like they need an answer key in the math practice problems. But they don't need a grade, and it's not fair to give them a grade while they're still learning about something. Always allow them the opportunity to make at least one rough draft, and then don't grade that rough draft. Just don't do it. So with that in mind, when you are grading a writing assignment, one of the key things to look at is, did they fulfill the goal of that writing assignment? What was the skill that they were supposed to be working on for that writing assignment? Or if it was for another subject, what was the content they were supposed to be expressing for that writing assignment? Did they accomplish the goal? Yes or no? And if they did, how well did they do it? So, for instance, maybe the goal was to practice alliteration, using alliteration in their writing. So did they have some in there? And if they did, were they good, creative, original ways to use alliteration, or were they kind of the standard, everyday type of thing that you can hear anywhere or see anywhere? If they've practiced alliteration, regardless of whether they're original or not, then they have fulfilled the goal. But if they're original, unique, interesting, and they've done it in a way that makes sense within the assignment, then that gets a better grade than when they've just plugged something in that is alliteration but doesn't necessarily make any sense, or is something that you could have read, any old place, any old time. So that's one way to determine a grade for an assignment, is just looking at, did they fulfill the goal of the assignment? Remember, though, that if it's for another subject, like for instance, if they're writing for history, then you probably want to look at the content more than you want to look at the writing itself. The writing itself could be a portion of the grade, but the content should be more important. Did they get the facts in there that they needed to get in there? All of the pieces of that history puzzle that they're trying to express in that paper, or that they should have expressed in that paper, did they do it? That's where the bulk of the grade is going to come from when you're talking about writing in any other subject. That science lab report should be more focused on content than on format or complete sentences or whatever else. Granted, if they're not using complete sentences and you want them to, then you can take some points off for that. But the content, what did they do in the lab experiment? What did they say in the report? That should be primary. So I hope that helps a little bit. But here's the thing that helped me the most when it came to writing, or to grading writing, especially in high school. And that was the concept of a rubric. A rubric is a list of things you're looking for and how many points each one is worth. Or sometimes you can break it down by percentage, what percentage of the grade each one is worth. A rubric is going to make everything objective for you. It is going to help you feel confident because you're not basing anything on feeling. You've got a predetermined list of requirements for this assignment, and you're going to grade the assignment based on those predetermined qualities. So there's no emotion here at all. It's very objective, and it gives you the confidence that you're actually grading your kids' writing accurately. So let's go through the steps on how to create a rubric so you can see exactly what it is I'm referring to. First of all, make a list of everything that you want to see in that assignment. For instance, are you looking for good grammar and spelling? I think we all are. So that's going to be something you're going to write on your list. What about paragraph transitions? Between paragraphs, are they doing a transition that leads you from one paragraph to the other? What about word choice? Are they using good vocabulary, extensive vocabulary, unique vocabulary? Are they being creative in their word choices? What about their introduction? Does it grab you? Does it tell what they're going to tell you? And then their conclusion, does it repeat what they told you, but not the same way as the introduction? What about the length? Did you specify a length and did they meet that? What about the content itself? Does it make sense? Is it relevant to what they're supposed to be talking about? If you're talking about a persuasive paper, were they persuasive? That would be something to add to the list. What about if they're using research for this paper? Did they use it? Did they use quotes correctly? Did they put footnotes correctly? That would be something maybe to add to your list too. And you can bet that there's a ton more stuff that you could add to this list. So then the question is, narrow it down to what you think is really important. And doesn't mean you're completely ignoring the rest. You could probably have something on your list that's kind of a catch-all topic. You could even call it miscellaneous if you want to. That would include just all of those kind of vague things that you haven't really thought about, but that you know you might encounter. Then what you do with each of those items on your list is you assign a point value to it. So for instance, grammar and spelling might be worth 10 points. I find grammar and spelling pretty important. I don't want to make it the most important thing. I'm going to give it 10 points. Then the next thing on the list I'm going to compare to the importance of grammar and spelling. So for instance, paragraph transitions. For me, that's a little bit less important than grammar and spelling. So I might give that 5 points or 7 points or 8 points. I'm just using my best understanding of what I want to see in this paper and how important they are to me relative to one another to assign these points. Now the introduction, I think that's pretty important. I'm going to make that 10 points equal to the grammar and spelling. The length, not super important. I'm going to make that 5 points. I'm not even writing these down at the moment. And you don't need to use these for yourself. This is just how easy it can be to make a rubric. Something that might be more important would be, okay, persuasiveness. Was it a persuasive enough paper if it was supposed to be? That might be worth considerably more than grammar and spelling to me, so I might give that 20 points. Or the content, or the fact that it had 3 really great points that it was making in this 5-paragraph essay. That might be worth 15 or 20 points. So you are deciding for yourself the relative importance of all the things that are on your list. And that's very freeing, and yet you're still grading your kids' writing with objectivity because you've prearranged all of this beforehand. Then you give them the assignment, they finish the assignment, they give it back to you, and now you're evaluating that piece of writing with that list in hand. So look at the paper and then give points for all of these items. So if I'm giving grammar and spelling 10 points, and they messed up on this spelling word and this grammar point and this punctuation was bad, then maybe I'm taking a few points off, so I'm giving them only 7 or 8 for grammar. Maybe they weren't very persuasive, so they're not getting the full 20 points for persuasiveness, they're getting maybe 15. Do you see? You're just going to then assign points for every single item on that list based on the total number of points you thought that item was worth. And if it's perfect, give them all the points for that. If it's not, then you're going to subtract as many as you think are necessary. So you're taking it one item at a time rather than this whole big thing that can be overwhelming. When you get to the end, you're going to add up all those points, and then you're going to convert that to a percentage, and there's your grade. Not difficult at all to use a rubric, and it will free you up when it comes to that intimidation or overwhelm about grading your kids' writing. Now, there are a couple of curricula that I'm aware of that provide rubrics, and you could find something that already does, so you don't have to make them for yourself. One of them is Rod and Staff, but that is primarily a grammar curriculum, and they do have a little bit of writing. So while they do provide a rubric, it's not going to be something you're going to use over and over. The other curriculum that does provide a rubric with every single lesson that I'm aware of is Write Shop. And let's just take a second here to talk about Write Shop because they happen to be our sponsor for this episode. Write Shop already has a rubric prepared for each lesson. There it is that you can see quickly. It's got areas for content, style, mechanics, and then just general. There's that catch-all thing we were talking about earlier. The total adds up to 50, and each section within those categories has a specific thing. For instance, under content, follow directions for assignment. That's worth a couple points. Paragraph unity. There you go. That's a good one. Title. I didn't even mention the title. That's worth a point or two, right? Style might have sentence variation or concreteness or proper use of tense. This is not all that they have on their rubric. These are just a few things I'm picking out, but you can see that they've got one as part of their curriculum that you can use for each and every writing assignment that your kid does in that program. And that's the neat thing about Write Shop is they have so many resources for mom. They have a teacher's manual that is full of great stuff that you will use as your kid goes through the Write Shop curriculum. And this will help you feel that much more confident about how your kids' writing skills can progress and how you can help in that. They have written out lesson plans for every single assignment. They have tips on editing and evaluating. They have lesson by lesson how to deal with the common errors that are seen with regard to that particular lesson. They have how to deal with common problems in grammar and mechanics. They have positive and encouraging comments that you can give to your kid as they are writing. I know that's something that I tend to say the same thing over and over again. So they have pages here of positive comments that you can give your kid, even neutral comments or ways to suggest that they improve, all right there. They have supplemental activities that you can assign to your kid to help firm up any given skill and more. So the Write Shop curriculum for high school, Write Shop 1 and 2, is wonderful in the sense that your kid's going to learn incrementally, skill by skill, and you are going to help them along the way with all the resources for mom that Write Shop offers in their curriculum. So I'll put the link to Write Shop in the show notes and definitely go check it out. Let's get back to rubrics now. So the thing about a rubric is it can be extremely adaptable. So you could use the same exact rubric for each and every lesson. And that's a great way to provide consistent expectations for your kid. But guess what? You don't have to do it that way. Maybe there's an assignment that you want to focus on something in particular. So then you can take that very same rubric and manipulate it a little bit so that it is in itself focusing on what you want to focus. So whatever section of that rubric that you think is going to be more important for this assignment, you can make those worth more points and decrease the number of points on the other areas of the rubric, or you could just cut out sections of the rubric altogether for any given assignment, or you can make up a new one for each and every assignment if you want. That's going to be tailor-made for that assignment. But again, you make it before the kid does the assignment so that when they hand in their final draft to you, you are objectively grading what they've done. Can you tell the kid about the rubric? Sure. Show them exactly what you're going to be grading for. That will help them to be focusing on that as they're writing, and that helps them gain skill as well. A rubric gives you and your student confidence in this whole teaching writing process. And you know what? There's always the possibility of adding extra points as extra credit points if you see something that they did really well that you didn't think to put on the rubric, right? So all sorts of ways to use a rubric, but the end result is everybody's much more confident that the writing process is going as it should and that your kid is learning to write well. And that is what I'm always trying to do, is inspire you with confidence that you can homeschool high school, that it doesn't have to be that hard. So pursue it, go after it, give your kid the education that you want for them. And hopefully I've been a help with that today. Thanks for being here.